So making Old Fashioned Fudge is easy in the ingredients and complex in the process, and that's why it makes it unique to make from scratch. For this batch, I'm going to take and walk it through it step by step, and so you can see the different points of it. I have sped the video up in different areas, and I'll be sure to point that out. The overall process from this, from start to finish, was about an hour and 15 minutes from the time of boiling to the time of cooled off. For the beginning of this formula or recipe, we're going to take 4 cups of sugar, 1 cup of cocoa, and 1 cup of milk. Actually, I take that back. It's 2 cups of milk. I did double this batch for a large party. So with this, I want to take and make sure that all the cocoa is being absorbed into the milk and enrobed with the sugar. That way I can get a nice mixture going before I add the heat. I just reached down and, as you can see, turned on the heat, turned it on to, so I have the range from low all the way to high and every number in between. I actually put this on 4 to start out with, because I'm still incorporating that cocoa powder. As you can see, it's still sitting on top. It's floating, which means it's not hydrated yet. Once hydration is started, then I can take and stop stirring. But at this point, I'm just keeping it off of the bottom of the pot, and I'm making sure that all of that gets incorporated. So again, I'm not too worried about the sides, because I have learned a little trick that be able to show you on what to do with this. And there's several different methods and thoughts about this, but I think I've come up with a good workaround. So you can see that cocoa has started to really hydrate and starting to turn color, so it's getting nice and rich. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that side stuff. Again, not worry too much about it. A lot of readings, a lot of text will tell you to make sure to get all that washed down. But like I said, I have a little bit of a workaround that I have used. I'm going to start increasing the temperature on this and take it up to around 6, which would be about medium-high heat. This is the only time that I will take the heat up on this product. Any other time of this cooking throughout this whole entire video, it's going to be at a very low heat, a 2, maybe a 3. So that's on a home gas range. So even commercial, I'd run no more than a 2. What I showed you with the brush there is I was saying that there are many thoughts about the actual sides of the pan. Now, one of the things that's difficult about making fudge from scratch is the actual melting of the sugar molecules and sugar crystalline to make sure that it doesn't come back. Part of that is one little crystal stuck on the side of that pot can actually take and reset this whole entire mass to a solid. That's what we don't want. We want it to turn solid when we want it to turn solid. And that'll be later on, but 45 minutes to 50 minutes down the road. At this point, we just want to get that process, that sugar process started. So one of the thoughts is to take a brush with water and wash down the sides as that syrup is coming up to heat. And what I found is I've not had luck with that the way that I've had luck with this. What I find is once my cocoa is hydrated, once my syrup is made, syrup meaning the liquid and the sugars put together, not melted yet. That sugar is still a very crystalline nature. And so what I'm going to do is just take plastic wrap and I'm going to put it over the pot. Now, normally I would just put 1 on there. For the video, I put, 2 or 3 layers on it just to show you. Also, I'm working with more of a commercial wrap and the plastic is a little bit thicker. If you were at home doing this and trying it, then you would probably have a thinner wrap, perhaps maybe even have a wrap from Costco that's a little bit thicker, and you could get away with a little bit less. But I just wanted to kind of over exaggerate a little bit the amount of ply that you want on there. What I'm doing is basically creating a lid that's going to turn into a dome. Because of that dome, any water or any vapor that comes up in the way of steam is going to take and it will press to the top and then run down the sides. With a normal lid, not all lids are shaped that way. So if I had a flat lid on there, it's just going to rain down in the middle of it, not providing me any help on the sides. With the plastic, what I've found is I can take the plastic, make a long piece, stretch it out like a piece of rope, and tie it on there. And with this, as the steam comes up, it's going to blow the plastic up, creating that dome, and that will wash down the sides of the pot. Now, you don't want to be crazy with this and have a lot of salt or sugar crystals all over the sides, but this will do a pretty great job at doing this. And I let this go for a little while. Instantly it starts to come up because remember that syrup is already hot, and you can see that it starts to boil around the sides and stuff. So again, reducing the heat, I just reduced the heat there, dropped it down to 2 on this. So I'm just want to take this low and slow. So what I would say is there's 2 really critical points in making this fudge. Point number 1 is right now, making sure that the sides of the pot get washed down with that dome or with that steam, however you do it. If you choose to do it with a brush and water along the sides and steam it off, that works too. But like I said, this is just a workaround that I have found that works really well. Also, if side note, if you're making rice and you can't find a lid, this works really good for making steamed white rice too. So as this comes up, the one thing that you want to be looking for is watching the bubbles of the actual fudge and the actual syrup. Because when it starts out, it's going to be really light. So it's not going to be thick at all, and it's going to take some time. Over the cooking of this, I want to say it was about 25 minutes on the actual heat before it comes up to the 234 degrees. I like to take the sugar nice and slow. The reason is my way of temping it. I want to make sure I have enough time that once it's at temp, that I still have time to work, make sure if I need any last adjustments to my equipment, whatever that looks like, that I have that time built in and I'm not rushing around with a really hot pot of sugar. So because it does become quite sticky, especially when you start working more advanced sugars. You're taking it up around 300 degrees, and when that sticks to you, it hurts. So it's just a part of safety too. But I find that you get a more thorough heating, a better heating, a consistent heating, just working it slow and taking your time. So I had said that there's really 2 points to this, and one would be the actual making sure that those sugar crystals are washed down, that they're melted properly, and then the other is going to be just the amount of time that it sits on that heat to make sure that that sugar comes to, we want to hit right in the ballpark of 234 degrees or soft ball. And once we hit that, then we'll be on our way. And the other part is making sure that you just keep an eye on it and just watch it. Especially if this is your first time, you just want to watch the actual syrup and what the viscosity of that liquid does. That liquid, as it becomes looser, then it'll start to boil more. And as you can see, it's starting to get nice and bubbly. But the thing about this, it's bubbling everywhere. It's not just bubbling from one point of contact on the heat. Now that's important because if you have a hot spot in the pot or on your burner, then the sugar can gather there, and even the cocoa, if it wasn't totally hydrated, can gather on an area, and one molecule start gathering others, and it'll cause a burn in the actual syrup. So you just want to make sure that you have a proper heating. So you can see this is heating all over. I've sped this up at about 400%. So this overall process here is right around 10 to 15 minutes just on this before I take and see that it's really going, and I really want to capture that steam. Now the other part, that steam is under pressure now, and what you can't see because of the camera is right over the top, is that raises up as much as 6 to 8 inches. before it just, once in a while, they'll get enough pressure and a little hole will pop and some steam will come out. That's okay. When you go to remove that plastic, make sure you remove it away from your skin. Remember, that is under pressure. With that being under pressure, it's going to want to come back at you. So you want to position yourself in a way of safety. I prefer to take tongs and pull off the plastic and just pull it away. But it washes down the side real quick. If I back up for a second, you see me with a kitchen knife, and I just was tapping the bottom and just checking in. I have very sharp edges in that pot, and I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any of those molecules or any of that cocoa powder that had fallen into that area and started to build up. At this point, I found that it was good to go, and it's just a matter of just letting it cook. So this is 35 minutes into the process. I'm taking my first sample, just grabbing some syrup, threw it over the ice to do an instant check. You'll notice that I don't use a candy thermometer for a couple reasons. One, the pot that I'm using is fairly deep. Two, I find that the candy thermometer for me, it only stays in one location. And because it stays in one location, I'm not getting a full read on the pot. The way that I prefer to do it is either scoop it out like you just seen from various parts and take an instant read in ice water so I can grab the syrup immediately and feel it, or more advanced ways where I've taken before, use what's called the Leyden frost effect, where I've put my hands in ice water, mainly my fingertips, get them nice and cold and wet, and then reach in, grab some syrup, and go right back into the ice water. It doesn't burn. I do not recommend doing that unless you are a professional, and professionals know kind of what I'm talking about, that when your fingers are wet, you have a little bit of safety barrier there, but there's also that part of the brain that says keep your fingers out of that hot sugar. I recommend either scooping or using a candy thermometer. Remember, 234 degrees. Once that syrup's done, you're going to transfer into some form of mixer. I've got a commercial or professional KitchenAid that I'm using. As you can see on the professional version, they have the ultra high speed, or I sped the camera up to 400 on this, because this is a long process. So this process alone is about 20 minutes itself to 25 minutes. And that is just taking that hot syrup and just cooling it down. The way I'm cooling it down is with a paddle. At different points before I add the butter, I'm going to slow it down so that way you can see what it looks like. But I think you can see from the beginning of that chocolate syrup going in there, it's starting to mix. It's not with a birdcage whip, it's with the paddle. And with that paddle, it's not going to aerate it that much. I don't want my fudge aerated. I want a nice dense fudge. So this is just moving the syrup around until it cools down. Like I said, this goes for a while. So I sped it up for you. Otherwise, it would be a very long ASMR video of making fudge. The other thing, the wind of the mixer, I went ahead and cropped that out of the audio just because it can be a little bit annoying after long periods of time. As you can see, it has turned. And what has happened here is, remember when I said that you want it to turn solid when you want it to turn solid, not when it wants to turn. So this is what has happened. It's cooled down to the point we have the, it has gone to that opaque color, which is what we want. I know that it's cooled down. It's sitting at about 110 degrees right now, so I can add my butter into it. Into this amount, I added 1/2 cup of butter. And also you can add vanilla at this point. You don't want to add vanilla before this unless you're using a vanilla bean, then you could. But most vanillas are alcohol based, and because they're alcohol based, you usually put them in toward the end so that way the alcohol, when it heats up, does not dissipate through, and then you have no vanilla flavor left. So you would never boil a alcohol extract, for instance, or even any alcohol base like a lemon or almond, etc. So you want to put that in at the end. So I have vanilla beans stored in my sugar, and so I just omit that part. Now, once this is done, what you want to do, and right, this is done. This is almost down at room temperature. Again, we're 40 minutes. Now you just take the fudge out and mold it how you would like. So I kneaded this a few times and then I placed it on parchment. I'm going to run mine approximately 1.5 inches thick, so that seems to be where the fudge will settle out at. If you want a thicker fudge, you can put it into a bread pan and mold it up that way. I've seen all sorts of different shapes done, which are kind of fun, especially around the holidays. With just a few ingredients, a little time, and a little effort, you can make this wonderful fudge. Should be silky and smooth. So with sugar, butter, cocoa powder, milk, and a little bit of vanilla, they come up with this. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.